Here we go. And it's always a little slow to start because then I've got to go find the link and post it somewhere.
Can you hear me all right, or should I grab some headphones?
I can hear you all right. You should probably grab headphones.
I like that mic. You gonna narrate audiobooks?
No, it's just I kind of get precious about how my audio sounds, so I want it to be about as good as I can get. You know, it's been really useful for work meetings.
Oh, okay.
I can't find my headphones.
And pop out chat.
We give you 19 minutes, Steve.
He's got exactly 2 minutes.
I've got 2 kids and one is sick right now. I'm lucky I'm even here.
Oh man, poor guy. All right.
These will do. I'll look like a doofus like you guys. Big old yearbook. Put some cans on.
I've been married for years, man. I'm used to looking like a doofus.
That's fair.
All right. I've done just about as much admin for this thing as I'm going to do. I think we're just going to go. I don't know if we're going to get a lot of people watching today because it's noon. There might be a lot of folks.
Watch us.
Yeah, there might be a lot of folks still at work. I don't care. I'll keep the little chat window open in case somebody pops in and wants to ask questions. But...
Steve, you could share it to the Aethon page if you want.
I meant to do that. Let's see.
And then in
I shared it to Bob's group.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and then
what's the watch link?
The watch,
the same one up top.
So I've got that. I'll just message it to you.
Oh, that works.
This is what it is. It's just everybody sharing links around and posting it on their various pages. There you go. That's the watch link in the message. Okay. So when we're done posting links and sharing stuff around, let me know. We can start.
Yeah, you got to stop.
What's up?
Yeah, oh, sure. Okay. So here we go. I got Rhett and Jaime.
Steve, whatever you want to call
my man Steve. Hey, I wanted to get you guys together and just celebrate you for a bit. Because some big things have been happening that have made me very excited for you guys, and I wanted to make some noise about it. It's so cool. So I think there were 2 things that I really wanted to discuss, but we can just go all over the place. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is you got this new book, or is it? I guess it's considered like a short story. It's like 3 hours worth of audio, isn't it?
It's a novella.
Yeah, novella. Yeah.
Novella, yeah.
And I've been seeing pictures, dead-eyed looking badass zombie cowboy. Looks like a bounty hunter-esque. I haven't listened to it yet. I wanted to listen to it yesterday to prepare for this thing, and just things are a little crazy. We just got a new dog yesterday.
Oh.
We were expecting him on Tuesday. He showed up yesterday, so sorry. But all I know,
it's really inconsiderate.
Yeah, it sucks, right? But I saw pictures of this book. I saw you guys advertising and ramping up, getting ready for release. Next thing I know, the thing is out and it's shot to like #1 in sci-fi and fantasy. And I thought to myself, damn, that's pretty good. I don't think I've hit #1 in sci-fi fantasy.
Well,
like on my book releases. I'll get up into maybe the teens, and kind of hover there and then come back down. So I thought, man, that's pretty nice. And then like a couple of days later, one of you posted #1 in all of Audible, all categories. You beat the Queen's Gambit, and that's like the hottest thing on Netflix right now. And that I mean, personally, that was about the point where I was like doing little dances in circles because I thought that was just like the coolest thing I'd never hit number one on out of all their categories. Again, it's like you kind of place on that list, but seeing how fast you guys shot all the way to the top, it almost seemed like it was unprovoked. That was amazing.
So there's a few caveats, right? Like we have to throw these out here. So your books have always been in sort of a different store than Dead Acre is. Dead Acre is in the Premium Plus catalog, which is a different bestsellers list from the main Audible bestsellers list.
Okay.
It's impossible for us to know where it would have landed on like the actual Audible store. Now it was number one over George Orwell, over Queen's Gambit, all of that stuff. But there's no way to balance which rank we would be on the main store. No matter what, like I've yet to see anybody, if I could just say it this way, like of our caliber, because I don't consider us, the Queen's Gambit by any means. I haven't seen anybody shoot up like that. Jonathan Maberry released a new book and it didn't do that either. So it was shocking to us.
It was so fast. It was like it was instantaneous. Or something. It's incredible. Like do you have any insight at all into how that may have happened, or do you think it was just like a fortuitous right place, right time kind of thing?
I think we had an awesome cover. We have
that cover helped.
Which got people excited, and I think we actually helped market it.
It's a gorgeous cover, by the way. It looks really good.
But with Plus, you find, because the contracts are different, like you get royalties. Plus is a buyout type deal.
Right.
So it's just for the Plus members, and most of those authors, they just get it and put it up. The stuff that sells really well is either classics or celebrity narrated or based on a TV show that just came out, like Queen's Gambit. So I think it was just a perfect storm of cool cover, unique genre, and us actually trying to get people to listen to it.
Do you think that the shorter length helped at all in having people
honestly
jump in on it? No, you don't think so?
Yeah, I think if it was longer, it probably might have stayed up at number one for a while.
I think that was one of the things that impressed me about it. There were a couple of things, right? First, like you said, Steve, that you saw it outselling like George Orwell, which that's fine. To me, that's not to take anything away from this, but to me, it's kind of not impressive because I've outsold Stephen King and George R.R. Martin and all that, but when I outsell those authors, you're talking about my book that just came out like a day or two ago versus their book that came out 2 decades ago. So your Orwells, your Kings, your Martins, and all that, they're the authors where their books just keep selling by themselves, and when something new comes out, you'll see their books kind of drop down the lists for a bit while the shiny new thing captures everybody's attention. But then when that kind of wears off, those books slowly creep back up because they're the titans. They never stop selling. But seeing you guys like shoot all the way up and just pop right over Queen's Gambit, like that's hot right now, and that's really cool to see. And then also like I was kind of wondering, like, okay, that's a 3-hour runtime. That's a pretty short book, novella. And it must be because I can't imagine that it hurt you because the books were free to the Plus member. You know what I mean? So a lot of my readers, they'll look at something that's like 5 hours and under and just be like, I'm not blowing a credit on that. No way.
Yeah.
I want at least 10 hours of listening time, 15 hours of listening time before I'm going to pop for a credit. So I maybe the platform Audible Plus having a buyout, it seems really good to take something small because people aren't going to be spending money. They won't be really taking that much of a risk. And, maybe you like pull yourself in some new readers just through that avenue.
If you look at the reviews on Dead Acre,
they look pretty phenomenal.
Very,
very greatly rated,
man.
Wonderfully rated.
They just love every second of it, and of course, all of the. I wish it was longer.
Yeah.
I will say this: maybe that is part of the appeal, right? Is that it was long
You
enough
can do
for
it
everybody
quickly.
to be exactly long enough for everybody to do it in like a day or two, but then like, damn it, I want more of that, and maybe that was a benefit for sure.
I have to imagine so. Now, I've got to believe that you guys will be doing more material in this universe, right? Like there's no way you can just do 3 hours, have it shoot up in popularity that much, and then walk away, right? You're going to do some more.
We have some stuff outlined, some chapters
Yeah.
started, and we're shopping it around
Okay.
to see if there's anyone that wants to kind of take a chance on a big series version.
And will that be a sort of a full length release book, or
Yeah, well, our next plan would be a full length thing because, like we know, the cool thing about Plus is it's given the ability for short fiction to sell again.
Yeah.
For people to actually read it because they don't have to spend that credit. But beyond this platform, like you can't sell a novella. So
Right.
we sort of see this as a test case. Now, this has proven people want it. Does someone else want to kind of take a chance on a longer series version?
Yeah. Well, I think so. I remember I was asking you guys earlier about I had an idea for a pretty thick short story 2 novella, and say, hey, what do you guys think about short stories? And you're like, they don't sell that well, or if you put them into a collection or anthology with some other writers, you're cutting up the pot. And maybe this new platform Plus, maybe that kind of changes things where people start doing those novellas again, just as
Yeah, I think so. It's a little, they're not very open to email, so it's sort of like if you dealt with them before, you can deal with them now.
Well, it's always who you know, right?
Yeah. But hopefully they open it up to allow more things into this program.
Well, but let's face it, as soon as they do that, this doesn't happen ever.
That's
again,
true.
Right? I mean, this is like, it's like everything in this industry. As soon as something becomes successful, it's no longer successful for everybody. You know what I mean? Like now it's 90-hour box sets on Audible. Well, what happens when people start putting out 200-hour box sets? Then a 90-hour box set doesn't look very appealing.
Yeah.
So I think the more short stories that hit, the less people are going to actually get to them because there's going to be so many of them available.
Yeah, it seems like you get diminishing returns.
Yeah.
So with the publishing industry, also with movies, it seems. You get like one movie that is a genre defining film, right? Like one of the easiest examples I have of this is Matrix, back in what was it, 99 when it came out. It brought a whole new look to film. It really brought wire work into the forefront of Western film. I mean, we'd had some wire work before, but this was a movie where it was okay for things to look not real, and that was part of the style. And it came out and it was a giant hit. Everybody loved it. Next thing you know, all these Matrix clones started coming out. Everybody in the late 90s and early 2000s, they all had
the slow motion rotation around a guy.
They all had sunglasses and leather trench coats and all that, right? And I think it kind of died finally in the Resident Evil series of movies, right? It died a slow, gurgling death. And yeah, it's like you've got the one person or small group of people that hit on that special formula, and then everybody starts trying to reproduce that formula.
A lot of people have texted me asking if this is, the revitalization of weird Westerns, or does this spell the beginning of short fiction in audio, blah, 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 blah. When it really comes down to it, like one author's success with a type of thing doesn't really set any kind of standard for other authors. Like Commune did an amazing job. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to write Commune and have success because you did.
Yeah.
So it's a really tough thing. Like, I don't think this has made anything about weird Westerns. I don't think all of those people went, shit, I need to get all the weird Westerns I can find now. They went, I want more of Roger Clark narrating weird
They
Westerns.
just want more of that.
Yeah, right.
Even then, they're like, oh, because there are some other weird Westerns by Roger Clark. But like, then you look at them and you go, okay, but it doesn't have that demon hunter element. So it's just not quite what they're looking for. And so I don't know that it's going to spark anything.
So Roger Clark is an interesting get. I mean, I know I'm R.C. Bray's boy, and every once in a while, we got some other narrators to work with that were fantastic. But Clark, he's got some. He did Red Dead Redemption 2, right? He's got like a healthy following of fans just from that game. So how did you guys hook up with him? How'd you land him? How did you land him for this book?
We said, we want Roger Clark. Get us Roger Clark. Audible said yes.
Nice.
Yes.
I mean, that was like literally nothing more than that.
Essentially, we were batting around ideas for who to narrate. R.C. Bray was on there. I've never heard him do Western, and then a bunch of other people. And then I think Steve said, man, I wish we could get the guy from Red Dead Redemption 2, but I got him narrated. So then I went on Audible, and I found his name. I was like, hey, Steve, he narrates books right here.
Yeah, he's got to be a voice actor.
Yeah.
They were like, get him.
Everyone seemed to like the idea, and it just went forward with it.
How perfect. Now, have you guys ever had a chance to correspond with him, at least in email, and just tell him, hey, thanks and great job and all that?
We thanked him and we chatted a little bit.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if we do more of these books, we're not doing them without Roger Clark. So like, we need him 100% on board to do this. Otherwise, we're going to release it and everyone's just going to go, well, that's not Roger Clark. Moving on.
Right.
I don't care who it is, even if it's Bob. It doesn't.
It's like linking into Bob. Like, all of a sudden now you need to wait a year to release your book too, because you need him, because that's the voice. Like, now we have basically a celebrity voice actor that we can't do anything without. So we're kind of beholden to him for whenever we can do these books anyway.
Well, yeah, but hopefully he enjoyed the book and
he said he did.
Yeah. So that more of that, but I think I think a story like that really gives everybody involved a chance to play. I have to imagine you guys had fun writing it, because it's not just a Western. It's like a weird Western, I guess, is the subgenre. But just reading the synopsis for the book, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything about it or not. I get really touchy with spoilers, but the synopsis, if I have this right, is that the main character he's like a bounty hunter character that's back from the dead. That's correct, right? He's kind of undead or resurrected in some way.
So he's not a zombie, right?
No, not a zombie, but so
you say something, right?
You explain.
He's undead, but he also not undead. Like, he doesn't really know what he is. His blood doesn't flow and his heart doesn't work, but he's still alive and he's not a zombie, sort of thing. So he just sort of is. And he's dispatched to kill demonic things by angels, and they don't really tell him what he's after either. So there's a mystery element to it, and hopefully the future stories where they basically send him somewhere and he has to find what's demonic there.
Yeah.
Instead of a straight up bounty hunter assignment, it's left more vague.
Well, like I said, that's got to be really fun to write. That's got to be fun to play with, because you're not as constrained as you normally would be. Like, if you were just trying to write a really solid Western, there's a bunch of rules that you have to conform with. And now, because you've bent the genre so much, you can do any wild ass thing that you feel like, as long as it's got a point in the story, you can go there.
I've read a lot of weird Westerns that sort of tiptoe around the weird to a degree where it really is just a Western that has like this one small element of weird.
There's like a haunted house.
Right. And one of the things that Rhett and I wanted to do with this was to make sure that it felt like Harry Dresden, in that it's like urban fantasy, monster, demon hunter, lots of magic, lots of stuff, but set in, 1856 or, whatever it was. And I think we pulled that off. I think we did. It looks like we did. And I'm excited to see what different things we could do in the future.
So, yeah, just going off the reviews, it looks like you nailed it. It's like I said, I fully intend to get this thing and listen to it. I really wanted to yesterday, and sorry. I was it was like, I rarely, if I'm going to talk to somebody else who's written someone, I rarely go read the book to prepare just because I don't have time to do it. But I was like, oh man, 3 hours, I can crack that out in an afternoon. And a brand new puppy demands a lot of everything. So well, I'm probably in the doghouse when I go downstairs, because my wife is going to look at me like, you haven't been helping.
See what you did there. The doghouse. I see what you did there.
Yeah, man, I'm going to blame it all on the animal. That's right. He's my new little scapegoat. Oh man. So yeah. Well, getting back to what I was saying a minute ago about just having fun with it. It's like, does this ever happen to you guys? Like, I'll be writing in some setting. This has happened particularly a couple of times in the Udo books that I've been working on. But I'll be writing in a setting, and I'll start to feel constrained because you've got all these rules that you've set up mentally. It's okay. These are all the things I have to conform to. Don't get too fantastical. And then at some point you realize the world is crazy and fascinating, and why shouldn't I be a little wild with what I'm doing? And that for me, like when I have that realization repeatedly as I'm working on this stuff. It's like you're writing fiction. You've got license to get a little nuts, a little exciting, and that's such a liberating feeling. And I'm only imagining that, like, writing this together must have been just, let's play, man, let's have some fun.
I think the Buried Goddess saga for us was that, because there were several times during the, oh God, so there's a million words, right? You're used to words. There's a million words in the series, right? There's 6 books. And throughout that process, Rhett and I would constantly say things like, this is too much, right? And then the other one would go, no, that's perfect. And those would be the moments throughout the series where I look back and I go, I can't believe we thought that was too much, because like that was perfect for what ended up happening, and it didn't feel contrived. Those are the moments, and
we had to ratchet it up too. Every book like had to become bigger with gods doing weirder things.
That's people complain that when I do a series, the first book is usually pretty slow. And it's, it's because of that reason, it's like, you don't want to burn out all the cool stuff in the first book, because then when the stuff that comes later, it's like, I have to do bigger than that. And, I can't have the Thanos fight at the ending of book 1. Cause after that, what happens? We're going to start punching planets.
Well, people just want your whole series in a month now. That sort of thing.
Yes, they do.
I remember specifically with the Buried Goddess saga, we wrote, and it must have been on the 4th book. We had yet to show, and this is a little spoilery, but I don't really care. We had yet to show any of the gods, right? The series is called the Buried Goddess saga, and throughout the whole thing, we hinted at the gods. We talked about the gods. They were this overarching thing, and at one point, Rhett's like, so when do we show the gods? I'm like we don't. That they're just there. And he's like, no, we got to show the gods. And as soon as we introduced the gods into the story, I think the whole thing just flipped on its head and became really what it ultimately ended up being. And those
the question throughout the first 3 was, are the gods even real? Because everyone
had different stories.
All the stories about the same gods were different, which similar to like Greek mythology or anything like that. And eventually we decided, they have to be real, and they're not going to be anything like what anyone thought.
Now that brings up an interesting question for me, because you guys are writing books together, and I'm just curious. I don't really want to talk about how I would perceive it to be. Could you just talk about what that process looks like between a writing team?
I think it's probably different for every team, but we tend to usually split it whether through POV, tougher in Dead Acre because that's first person. So in that one, Steve actually did the first half, I did the second half, and then we switched it and kept merging it together. We usually will take a certain character and push their story until we can't anymore, and then go back and forth, that sort of thing. It requires a lot of just constant messaging back and forth with ideas, usually arguing over some ideas.
Wow.
And then sometimes we'll take something, we'll get pretty far and be like, this just sucks, and let's rebuild it from the ground up. That usually does happen, but once we know the idea is there, we're pretty solid.
So, before you guys start writing, do you sit down and kind of plot out the broad strokes of what the story's going to be, or do you tend more to, you know what, I'm just going to start writing something and then pass it to you, and then you see what you do with it?
Rhett, you want to explain the oh so hated process that
you have? And not every time, like, the process for some of the things is, and this one specifically was, Steve kind of wrote something really fast that what was a cool idea, and kind of we weren't sure where to go with it, and then we keep trying to push that idea that we're not sure is working until I have a mental breakdown, and then we have like a 2-hour call where we realize, oh, like, let's just rebuild it from the start, switch a few things, and then everything will work fine. So that has been a method. We've plotted some things out. We really aren't outline people, though. So, like, either one of our outlines is maybe a page and then some notes about things that need to happen.
Yeah. Interesting. So okay. So if you guys are working on a book, do you know at the start about what word count you're going for? Like, hey, I think this is a 100K word book, or any clue?
I mean, I think we always aim for 100,000. 100,000 is just like, there's sort of like a loose goal. It's got to be 100,000 words, but we've learned that it's very hard for us to write 100,000 word. Everything is way bigger in general than that. So.
Oh, okay. So you usually end up with more material than you need, strictly speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought we would finish the Fairy Goddess Saga on book 6 in like 150,000 words, because it was right there, right? We just had to have the final battle, and then it was over 200 or something. We couldn't do it.
So are you guys coming up with a whole, when you have your collaboration sessions, are you coming up with like whole listings of ideas and then just kind of like weeding out the good ones? It sounds like you have a very nice problem.
Collaboration session for us is that we literally talk on Facebook Messenger 24 hours a day. I mean,
yeah, some ideas move forward, some we get through like 10,000 words, and we're like, no one's really having fun.
Oh wow!
Well, I mean, you got to remember we're also running Aethon Books together, right?
Yes, yes.
So our whole morning to night day is us talking back and forth about both Aethon, and like one of us will go, oh, I have this idea for this, and then it'll get buried for like 10 days. And then, one of us will say, do you remember that thing? It's usually me. I'm like, hey, remember that thing? And Rhett's like, oh, that was shit. We don't need
we have to pick and choose.
I'm like, but I already wrote 20,000 words in it.
That's got to be rough, man, throwing away a chunk of work that way.
No, I mean, that's an exaggeration. But
sometimes the market tells us, though, like Dead Acre, we liked it, but we were like, Weird Western, novella's fine. That'll be okay. And then we saw the reaction. We're like, man, people, like, this was fun, and people want a series. So sometimes it's as easy as that, where we have put other ideas on hold because we have a feeling we're going to be writing a series for this.
I think the setting is so weird that people can't help but take notice of it. I
think people love Westerns and they don't realize it.
Well, it's kind of like the Coil Hunter Chronicles that came out. What was it, like last year or the year before? I don't remember anymore. Dean Wilson. And yeah, it's just just an oddball, off the wall, bizarro setting that I mean, in my case, I don't think it would have ever occurred to me because I tend to like overthink the world building, you know, where it's like, okay, well, you've got this incredibly diverse and detailed environment, but how did you get to that point, right? And I'm always like getting locked up on that. I think there must be just a freedom in saying, no, you know what, forget it. This is just how things are. And deal with it, and we're not even going to say that there needs to be like this measured build up to this is how things got the way they are. It's like you're just here, deal with it. You better get into it, or you know you're going to be playing catch up through the whole book. And I think there's a certain level of just wild creativity there that's very. I think it's exciting to readers.
Yeah, well, that's sci-fi can get overwhelming, right? Coming up with ideas for creating these worlds. What was cool about this was when we would get stressed out, like, well, I don't know if they do that in the West. It's as simple as Google. Like, it's pretty easy to find facts on the West. It wasn't like it was big, but everything was spread out. There's a lot of detailed information to figure out how things work. So
yeah.
And of course, I live here in Fort Worth, which is where the West began, and the original downtown still stands. Like I could literally drive 30 minutes to the place that was originally called Hell's Half Acre. And although some of the buildings have been repaired over the years, they say that it's the same as it was 200 years ago when these guys would sort of escape the law and come out and gamble and do all of those things. And so it's sort of easy to get a feel for what that would have been like. The beauty of Dead Acre is it's the American West with quasi-biblical overview for heaven and hell. And then we kind of just go, I don't like the real thing. Let's just do something else altogether. And we go, that's fine. It's like, it's mythology to a degree, right? Like,
yeah, you do what you want
to do.
Yeah. Well, I think also though that being able to tour the place that is the setting for your book, or at least immerse yourself in an area or culture, like that's so helpful.
Yeah, and everyone has an image of the West, right? It's that town in Westworld. That's like what everyone pictures. So we just get to populate what everyone's already seeing. I think that adds a visual aspect. Like everyone pictures exactly the town this guy is in because we've seen it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the archetype for what that town should look like. But there's a difference. Google has made writing books very easy. It's made it easier for me. If there's a place that I want my characters to go and it's based on something in real life, well, I can open up Google and go to Street View and put myself on a corner and just kind of look around. But I think there's something to be said for like physically, as Steve said, just being able to go there.
Yeah.
Just go there, breathe in the smells, take in the sights, and just hear what it sounds like in the area. I think that gives something more to whatever it is you're writing.
I mean, they do a twice a day cattle drive. It's the only place in America that still does it. So you can watch them drive 32 cattle from one side of sort of downtown stockyards to the other twice a day, back and forth. And they dress up, they kind of do the thing, and it's not fully touristy. It's kind of like it's actually like the biker part of town now, where they all go and ride their bikes and hang out at the saloons and the bars and stuff. But for me, there's always been this really cool aspect. I mean, the West is amazing. That's why we love The Mandalorian. It's a Western.
Well, yeah, it's a space Western, of course. Which I think is exactly what they needed to do in order for
go back to the basics.
Star Wars content to work is okay, simple. Let's just have a simple, contained story with an interesting setting, which I think the big Disney movies, they kind of got away from that, and they were just dropping.
They thought they had to go bigger and
just drop imagery. Just put ATSTs into the movie and everybody's going to love it. If they see stormtroopers, it's going to be wonderful. I fell asleep on Rogue One. I really did.
I didn't like Rogue One.
It was a beautiful movie, beautiful imagery, all the things looked right. Like I remember watching it, and there was a point like halfway through the movie where I said, why don't I like this movie more? It looks exactly the way it's supposed to. And then I kind of realized, oh yeah, I don't care about any of these characters. They're all boring.
So that was my big.
That was a Star Wars movie.
That was my big thing. Is I've asked a dozen people who told me they like Rogue One to name one of the characters for me, and most of them can't even name the characters that were in that movie.
K2SO. He's the only likable character in the whole thing.
Yeah, but who cares? What are the other people's names? You know, Rhett?
I know Cassian because that's a cool name. I don't remember what her name is.
Cassian Andor.
Didn't matter.
Was it Andor? Cassian Andor.
He's getting a show.
Like they stole his name from an alien race in Star Trek, and Jen Erso, who,
I was going to say Jane.
She was in some of the books, I believe.
I guess she's a fine actress. I mean, she's done plenty of other movies, but man, I don't know if it was just that they didn't give her enough material to really sink her teeth into in that movie, but she is just an emotionless wall through that whole thing. It's none of the things that she's doing, like she's not actually making decisions to do anything. It's just like the events of the story keep pushing her into places, and then she just responds to it.
Well, I mean, you shoved a story right before something we know is going to happen. The danger that I saw with Solo was like there was the trailer where Chewie was going to get hit by a train or whatever. You're like, I wonder if he gets hit by a train.
I wonder if he survives.
but Solo, to me, Solo was one of the best Star Wars movies of all time. It was amazing. Best story is probably a better way of wording it. I thought it was the best heist. It was amazing, and they did it just right. And I wish they'd do more of those kind of.
Yeah, I wish it hadn't been a Han Solo movie. I wish Han Solo hadn't been in it.
Could have just been any smuggler.
Oh yeah, it could have been just anyone.
That's the point, though. It's like what was it, Alden Ehrenreich? I'm sorry, man. I can't see anybody but Harrison Ford as Han Solo. I can't see anybody but Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones.
See, that was easy for me because I don't like Harrison Ford.
Well, whether you like him or not, like he's kind of been indelibly meshed with those characters.
Sure.
And I think the only reason to have the movie be Solo is because, hey guys, remember Han Solo? You didn't need to have that. It's kind of like what Mandalorian's showing, right? I'm a little surprised, in fact, that they brought what's her face, Ahsoka. I didn't watch the cartoons and stuff, but I know
the guy who made Mandalorian invented her, and he's absolutely in love with her.
Yeah,
he's gonna put her in everything. You'll see.
That's fine. It was, but when she showed up, it was almost kind of like, wow, did you need her? It's not like your ratings were flagging. Usually, they bring in the thing when the ratings are starting to nosedive, right? It's like, hey, Star Trek Discovery's not doing well. Quick, get Spock. Put Spock in the show. I thought that was kind of an interesting choice. Hey, let's talk about the stuff that you're doing.
There yet.
You don't even know who he is.
So you've got this success in not just this book, but the other books that you guys have done and worked on together. But then in the meantime, you alluded to you've got this whole publishing concern that you're also managing as well.
I guess it's a concern.
And well, here's what's fun for me about that. That's why I wanted to get you guys. Like I just felt like everything that's going on, kind of people need to be hearing about it more because it's so exciting. Now I remember maybe a year or two ago when I first signed with you guys, and you were just getting the business off the ground, and there was some discussion. I think it was on Facebook, and somebody. I don't remember who it was now. Somebody was kind of down on it, like, oh, I've seen so many independent publishers start up and then just fail and disappear. And a good portion of time after that discussion, I'm kind of taking stock and what do we have here? I saw just yesterday, the day before, one of you posted a wall of all the titles that you had done in 2020, and it's insane. It's just this giant. I don't have it with me right now. I'm probably gonna like edit this video and put some overlays and stuff. But it's just this huge. How many titles was it in 2020?
150 titles that are on there. There are some missing actually, but they're missing because they were mainly audio only titles.
Tiny little 2-man crew, independent publisher, looking at books from authors that most industries would just turn their nose up. Or most publishers, right? They just, I don't know who that is, right? And you guys are going through a lot of that stuff and just like, no, this is a killer book, and whoever's passing up on it, they're missing a trick. And you're kind of collecting in, and you're turning it into something really successful that I think a lot of the bigger houses just, I don't know, they weren't interested. They figured there was bigger money somewhere else. And now you've got Lou Diamond Phillips, who's doing his first book and wanted to break in the writing market. He comes to you guys now. How does that work out?
Honestly, who knows? His agent found us. I think we kind of tried to act as traditional of a publisher as we can to attract that sort of thing. Basically flexibility, like we could publish a super fast indie writing and then something that had like a year-long pre-order and was a really traditionally structured release. So that took a lot of flexibility for us.
Yeah.
I don't know if they found us.
I mean, if you look on, of course, I'll toot our horn for a little bit. If you look on any of the top 100s on Amazon, you're going to find the little Aethon bird on the corner of any number of those books. And I think that if you don't know the difference, and I think that in our little community, sometimes we know too much a lot of times to where we know the difference between sort of indie and hybrid and traditional. But a lot of people, they just see, well, there's 20 books on the top 100 right now from this Aethon Books.
There's a book. Yeah, that's right.
So they, obviously they just saw. Now, when it comes down to it, we're doing things so vastly differently from traditional publishers in that we're not trying to release $14.99 ebooks so that you'll go buy a hardcover. We're releasing books that people can afford, that people will read and want to get to that next book. Your Commune series on ebook is still killing it after what, 2 years that we've been.
Like March 2019 or something.
That was actually something that Bob and I noticed. It was like right when the coronavirus really kicked off, like around April and into May. He sent me an email and said, "Holy crap! Did you see the numbers on these books? They're spiking again." It's like looking back in hindsight, I probably could have done without the book sales if we could have just had a normal 2020. But that's how it goes.
That's fair. You trade the success for going out of your house. I get that.
Well, it's not just me going out of the house. I would have liked it if everybody had a more stable and joyous 2020. And it's too bad. It's what it is right now. I think we're going to get through it. I think humans are an incredibly tough and resilient species. I think in a couple of years we'll just be,
Come to Texas, stop listening to what the media is telling you about Texas, and you'll realize that we actually are already through it and we're totally fine.
Yeah, I don't know what is and what isn't anymore. It's kind of crazy. I just saw a report earlier this morning that said that hospital beds in LA County are like down to 0% capacity. And you try to keep your ear open and pay attention to what all the experts are saying and conduct yourself as a responsible, conscientious citizen. But I've seen so much shenanigans now at this point. I just don't know what I can put any faith in anymore when I see some report or I hear when was it the CDC? The CDC themselves that said, well, downplay masks because we don't want them to be shorted out. We want to make sure that all the health professionals have access to them. So don't, kind of downplay masks, right? So everybody's, masks. You get this narrative going that masks don't do anything. Then a few months later, when supplies are back to the levels where they should be, they pivot and say, okay, everybody wear masks. And now you've got a certain number of people that will do it just because they want to be polite. Got another group of people that is, okay, I understand why you told us not to do it before. That was some shenanigans. I'm going to wear it now. And then you got other people that are just, they'll dig their heels in because they're just sick and tired of all the games.
I mean, I wear my mask when I go where I'm supposed to wear a mask. My kids are in school. There's, some things in play at the schools that, just to make sure that everybody's following whatever rules, and there's, different barriers and the kids wear masks and stuff like that. But the reality is my kids have been in school. Not one person in the school has died.
Yeah.
And we wear masks when we go places and we're fine. And so to look at the media where like, I literally had somebody text me and ask me if there's bodies in the street, somebody from Poland literally thought we were all dead in Texas.
Yeah. It's not crazy. Well, I mean, look, the virus is a real thing.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely. I had a good friend of mine passed away from it maybe a month ago now. So I know it's real. I know it's out there, but it's just the media coverage. The media coverage in all things, not just this topic, but any topic, everything, is just so predatory and egregious that it's amazing that I can still go out and go to the store and see random strangers and we'll still smile and wave at each other or nod our heads. It's so weird. It's like, if you just watch the media, the country's ripping itself apart and going down in flames. You go outside your house and walk around. Like for me, maybe I just live in a nice area, but I go outside and I see my fellow countrymen, American citizens around, and we're all cool. Nobody's showing their asses to each other. We just kind of nod. Everything seems to be a lot more on an even keel than they would have us believe, and
well, you got to get those ratings.
Yeah, it's a scary world now.
When I was growing up, and I don't know if growing up, that probably dates me here. Josh was probably going to be like, man, you're such a youngin'. When I was growing up,
you guys are both. That's the other thing. Like that's the other thing we should really focus on here is you guys are a couple of babies, literally, and you're kind of in the process of redefining what independent and hybrid publishing looks like. Like you're kind of like these little industry upsetters here that are just doing stuff because it's fun. It
was all an accident. All of it.
I gotta tell you guys, like I'm kind of quiet and just kind of sit back and lurk and watch the things going on. But it has been such a joy watching what you two have been doing ever since you got this thing off the ground. I see you bring in a new author and next thing you know, there's new books coming out and new people are getting exposed. New people are finding this outlet that they probably thought they weren't going to get at any point. And you're finding a way to do it successfully. At least it looks successful to me because you keep getting these new accolades and feathers in your cap and such. This has been too much fun. I've loved every minute of watching you two succeed. And your babies.
It's been fun. I think that the fact that
we're not that young.
Yeah.
Well, you're pretty young, Rhett. I mean, let's just be honest. What are you, 7? Both of us are authors, and so that has of course played a huge role, I think, in the way that we treat Aethon Books, because like we know what an author needs or wants or whatever, and honestly, man, I think that the sky is kind of the limit for what we could do. I don't know if we can handle much more without, bringing on somebody else, but I don't know. I mean, Rhett, what do you think? What's 2021 look like?
I have no idea. We have a lot of crazy shit coming early in 2021.
Are you guys looking at hiring on additional staff? Is that something that's coming?
We have a lot of people that work with us, just as far as bringing on like a full-time Aethon editor to handle like an entire subgenre or something. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, like, the way that we run, like, it runs well because we are so hands-on to everything. And I think one of the things that we fear losing in any kind of growth is that, we've had some opportunities. Of course, I can't really talk about. We've had some opportunities to go like do some weird, huge, massive things that we go, but we wouldn't be able to do what we do if we did that.
Yeah, I told Steve, because I do basically 99% of our marketing and our launches, and like when something doesn't sell, it's personal. Like, I hate that.
Yeah,
author's not happy. I'm not going to be happy if I'm not running it anymore, and it's like, and I'm separated from that, then we're not going to treat each series the same way. There's that personal aspect of, I want it to sell just like I want my own stuff to sell because I created the marketing plan or did the blurb or something like that.
On my side with, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steve, please.
I was just going to say, on my side with the creative aspects, if you as an author dislike your book cover, that like Rhett said, that literally hurts.
Yeah.
And so I'll throw out a book cover completely. I mean, we'll pay the artist, whatever. We will throw it out and we'll get a brand new book cover if you don't like your book cover, because that's what I, as an author, would want if I were with a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And if we had other people handling all this stuff, I don't think it would be personal enough for us to know that we can make everybody, at least try to make everybody happy in what we're doing.
Well, I can definitely see that aspect. I mean, there's so much of this that is personal that you need to have final approval on. But I wonder if there's a point where the thing grows big enough that you can't spin all those plates anymore. You know what I mean?
Like, that's where we are at, where we're at the max number of books I think we'd want to do per year.
Yeah.
Now it's just about making them all do better.
So
building out followings. And
does it come to a point then where you guys are kind of looking at that next step? The next big thing on the horizon, and you have to decide, well, okay, either we go for that, but some things here are going to have to change. Maybe we take a break from writing books for a while and just run the business side of this thing, or do we bring someone on to help us manage the business side of things? Maybe not the final approvals on cover art or any of that, but like even just a fucking accountant. So you don't have to.
That is the one thing where we've gotten some help in.
You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, somebody else is going to manage all the dollars and cents. Of course, you need to have approval of that too. You need to go over all that. Otherwise, somebody's going to take you to the cleaners.
And that's the thing. Like, I could either do it all myself and send out the statements in 4 hours, or spend 4 hours looking through spend 3 hours looking through someone else's work.
Yeah.
That's sort of how we operate.
Right now, I think that's where we are.
In my old job, my boss used to ask me to print stuff for him, and I was like, "Why don't I just teach you how to press Control P?" On your own? And then we'll cut out the extra 10 minutes of us discussing how to print, and that's sort of where we are. We're like, we could just do it ourselves, and it'll take 20 minutes longer. So
yeah, it's hard to know when to bring that new person in. It really is, because it is. You got to kind of you have to train that person into your culture and what you want your business to be.
Yeah, and I think
that's really hard to do over Zoom.
Yeah, it's hard to train someone over Zoom.
If you're all in the same office, that's a little different. You walk 10 feet, you say, Rhett, print this for me, and then you go back to your office.
Yeah.
But when you're adding the extra element of, like, I live here, he lives in Delaware, she lives in there, this, all of that, We want to get into graphic novels. We want to get into film. We want to get into all of these things that would create new avenues for.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
2021 is just going to be the year of exploring what we're actually able to handle. And but the one thing that I know Rhett and I agree on is we're not willing to do that at the expense of people's books selling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not willing to. We're not going to take on 1,000 books, and just hope some sell. Like, we're pretty maxed out.
Well, I think that's probably to your benefit though too. Not to sound like it's an old boy club, but at some point there's got to be a barrier to entry for new talent, right? So I mean, at some point, and that's gonna be what sets the bar for quality, right? Is when you're saturated for work, there's not really much more you can take on, and then if you see something. When you see something that really catches your eye, that's going to be like that bit of lightning in a bottle, versus I think that's a better place to be in than, hey, we're looking for someone who writes in this genre. Do you know anybody? We need titles. I think you guys are well set for content at this point.
Yeah. And I think as far like the what's next question is just so tough with how volatile this industry is. Like 4 months ago, we had no idea what Audible Plus is. Now we're telling some people, like, don't release your audiobook yet, because how do you compete with so many free things if you're not a celebrity or Craig Allenson or something?
Yeah.
2020 was the year. Sorry, Rhett, I didn't mean to walk over you there.
No, you're right.
2020 was the year that we were like, we're going to launch Aethon Audio. And we did launch Aethon Audio. And then 6 months into 2020, audio died. Across the board. Now, of course, Joshua Gayu, who is audio star, doesn't necessarily see what we see, but to launch a book into the audio market right now is suicide. As a new author, it's absolute suicide. Wow. Because I mean, we're in these Audible groups. Like, there's a group on Facebook called Here For It, which is just a massive Audible listener group, and I'm in there constantly just listening to what people are saying, and over and over and over again all day long, people are saying, I haven't used a credit since Audible Premium Plus came out.
Wow.
There's so much content that they just listen to free stuff all day long. And somebody the other day is like, I have 7 credits because I haven't used anything. Does anyone have any suggestions for what I should get with those credits? So imagine you launch a book and nobody's buying books right now. What's the point in spending $6,000 to produce that book?
Yeah, that was a pretty huge industry upset. Audible Plus, holy crap!
Away payments for codes, which were a big part of recouping investments and stuff. Like 2020, they gave us 45% on royalties for 3 months, but they took away a lot of other things. So we sort of had to take a big pivot and change how we operated Aethon Audio, and we have so many audio partners now, because it's just, you need to spread things around. There's just not enough time and money to make everything super fast now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much we can get into like the business aspect of things. I don't know what you guys can share and what you can't share, but I think I saw that you've been doing some work with Podium now, right? Is that like a natural result of how much things have changed? Is you're
I think for sure we've been working a lot with Podium. We've done a lot of recent deals with Blackstone. We've been working with Audible Studios for a while. We've just done a lot of deals with Tanner. So all of them, I think Podium and us had similar approaches to trying to at least survive COVID and how it was affecting the audio industry. So we partnered with them on a lot of things. So they're one of our biggest partners on the audio side of things. And then I
think a lot of us see each other as partners, right, Rhett? Like, we see each other, we go, this, it's awful. This is not working for anyone. How do we all make it work? And that's the way. It's like, we just kind of couple hands and say, I've got this, you've got that. Let's couple together and see if we can make something that works.
Yeah, like, we've got a book that we like, that we edited and we have art for. You pay for making it on audio, and then we'll launch it together and sort of push it together. And that's sort of been our new strategy is if we could spread the costs around, audio becomes a little more viable. Because there are the things that hit. Sometimes stuff hits, but it's not like an ebook where if you don't have a lot of money, you could make an ebook, get $100 cover, pay someone a little bit to edit it and put it out. On audio, if you want a quality narrator, then you're probably paying them a couple $1,000s just to put the book out.
The big production, yeah.
It's a heavy expense, and especially when you get into series.
Yeah, right.
Paying that much for your book one that's going to get all your readers is great, but then what happens after the drop off on your sequels, and you're still paying that same amount because you're not getting a discount.
Yeah.
We're 2019 and 2018 were years where everyone was like, every book has to have an audiobook. 2020, we can't afford for every book to have an audiobook. Nobody can. And so
you don't want your book 6 selling 10 copies on your audio profile. You're better off not having the audiobook. So we've been a lot more careful in sort of teaching people what we're seeing data-wise and how to approach audio instead of the free-for-all it was 2 years ago.
Man. So I would then assume that we're also seeing just across the board, like the revenues that people are earning are down as well. Because you're also having to spread that out quite a bit, right? You partner with someone that's the purse divided more ways.
Yeah.
If you're partnering, yeah, but I think it washes out in the end when you're not losing money. At least you're making some money.
Sure.
I think
a lot of
our sense has been like audio can be so lucrative, as you see with Commune.
Yeah.
If you're splitting some royalties, if you're making the right partnership, whether it's a big advance or just royalties on something with a top narrator that's going to sell, like okay, you get 20% of the royalties. If it's a hit, who the hell cares? You're making. Yeah,
I think there's
rather than keeping 100% of the royalties to get some random narrator and then it doesn't sell.
Yeah, I think there's a certain point where the book sales themselves reach a critical mass where it's like I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter. There's enough for everyone. Spread it around.
It's been interesting because you watch a lot of people who for years now have been talking, don't do publishers, but then you realize how hard it is to do what we do. And especially, I think last time I read, it was like 1.6 billion ebooks a year are published to Amazon.
Yeah.
Right. And
some of them are good.
Some of them are good, and nobody will ever know. I jokingly ask the question all the time. I wonder how many great books have shitty covers. I'll never know.
Yeah, right.
I'll never know because I'll never ever pick that book up because it's a cover that doesn't appeal to me. I judge books by covers. I'm a book cover designer. That's what I do.
Everybody does. That's one of those axioms where it's just like everybody goes, yeah, but really, no.
It shows pride in your work.
That's exactly right. You want to see something that's eye-grabbing because then you know that whoever put that on the book invested something in it. It wasn't just, I'm going to sit down and write my Thomas the Tank Engine fan fiction and just throw it out there, and make $80 when my family members buy a few copies because I've badgered them into it. There's something between that and someone who's actually put some love of craftsmanship into the thing that they're putting out there. It's like, okay, he or she at least cared about this enough to present it in an attractive package. Maybe I'll flip it open and read the first page.
Would you write your school essay in Comic Sans? It's like this. It's the same thing. You're going to make it look nice.
I might do it if I hated my teacher.
Yeah.
The industry is really hard. It's really competitive. And the reality is some really, really good books don't get purchased for whatever reason. And like with what we do, we could do the perfect launch strategy, like Rhett's talked about, like great marketing, perfect launch strategy. And it might come out on the same day as a Craig Allenson book, and nobody even sees that it exists.
Yeah, and then you're hosed.
Yeah, there's just things you can't predict. Especially during COVID, it was like every 3 weeks, probably in spring and early summer, where Amazon would just break. And like we'd have a serious takeoff one week, the next week there were no also bought. You couldn't find it anywhere. and you were like, well, I wasted a launch. We wasted a launch in this series, and like, what are we going to tell the author? That Amazon was broken? It was, but
Yeah.
you know, like no one's going to be happy, and that's the stuff you deal with when on the internet.
Our
Websites
Amazon
just
account
break.
got terminated. Our Amazon account got terminated for 2 days, and no one knew why.
Oh, Jesus.
I did phone calls. Everyone's like, I don't understand. I don't know why, but we can't fix it. We'll have to put you in touch with this person and that person. And I spent 2 days on the phone.
Oh my
with
God.
a bunch of people who had no idea what happened or why it happened.
And in the meantime, your business is just porked. Good Lord.
You know,
we couldn't do anything.
Nothing. Right now, for some reason, Dead Acre is not searchable in any other category except for when you specifically go to science fiction and fantasy. It just happened yesterday. No one knows why. No one noticed. If we weren't paying attention, we wouldn't be able to ask them to fix it. When I launched Titan Board, all of a sudden, I think it was like week 3, it was ranking really high, great launch, and then all of a sudden, the page broke. All the Autobots on the page broke, and you couldn't find it anywhere else. And the rank was falling, like every day, falling. And they were like, "No, it's fine. People can still search." And I'm like, "I'm watching it. I see that I can't search it. It fixed. The rank went back up, and they were just like,
That's got to be the most infuriating thing ever."
And things like that have happened with things like that have happened with several authors over the course of time. And thank God we've had some really amazing authors that we've worked with who understand. But there was one series that launched, and it launched without categories. Even though we asked them to, we made sure Amazon had the list of categories we wanted. It was just nowhere to be found on the internet. And our entire launch plan, thousands of dollars and effort toward it, completely kaput because Amazon screwed up. And who cares? I mean, not Georgia, right? Like she doesn't care. The KDP rep, she's just like, well,
we can't go like, hey, give us a daily deal because this happened.
There's no negotiation. It's just you just.
My favorite is on Audible. We have a 3-book series on Audible where books 1 and 2 are in one series page, and books 2 and 3 are in another series page. And the drop off between book 1 and 2 was insanely high. And we finally discovered this, and it was like, well, yeah, no one could find it because it was so confusing. And how do you even fix that? And those are the issues you dealing with no reps.
Yeah, well, plus I guess that's just that's just the devil of the industry too. I mean, I know some guys that want to. They write books. They want to get bigger. They're very, very small time independent. They'll like put out ebooks. They may have done like 1 or 2 audiobooks, just completely through ACX. And I've seen that there's a few of them that, they haven't been able to get any traction going through Amazon's platform, just because, as you said, the market is just so saturated. And a lot of them are okay. Well, we're going to sell our ebooks and our audiobooks directly from our website. You'll come there and get it from us, and then we won't have to deal with these snafus with Amazon, and we won't have to give up any percentage to the house when a book is sold. And I'm just looking at that and thinking, there's no way, guys. Here.
It's easy to come to that conclusion when you don't know what Amazon's success is.
Exactly. And it's easy, if the opposite is true, it's easy to have a massive hit and not be able to understand that your next books were successful, but you're probably never going to hit that massive hit level again.
Yeah.
Because very few do. Like, building on success, the question is it possible, or do you sustain success? Can you, like, you could almost not control a massive best-selling viral hit. And we deal with both ends of the spectrum. We have authors who, like, we'll send them a report for 1,000 sales, and they're so excited, and then we'll have authors who are like, oh, I want a 10,000. There's just such a range of experience.
Of course, I'll leave names out of this. Don't even try to guess any of this, right? Like, we don't want any names thought.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not.
I spoke to an author last night. We're gearing up a launch, and I said to them, what would be your happy sales goal? Like, what would make you happy? And the person said to me, 10,000 sales sounds good. I said, I don't think you realize how rare 10,000 sales on an ebook is on Amazon. Maybe, I mean, it's just very, very rare.
Yeah.
And so we talked through the whole process, and ultimately we came to this point where we understood, okay, so here's the happy goal. Now, if we hit 10,000, like, we'll go to Vegas.
Depending on price and everything too. Like,
yeah, nobody knows what's good or what's bad, and we've had authors give up royalties. I'll take less royalties if you increase my royalties when I hit 25,000 sales. And I'm like, you're probably never going to come anywhere near that. Just let us give you your royalties. No, I'm not going to, I want to do it this way. I'm like, well, okay.
All right.
And it's on Amazon, there's no print run. Like, we can't put it in front of a certain amount of people. Like, in print, when they're going to push a title, it'll sell those copies because they're going to put that many copies right in front of where people are going to get them.
Yeah.
On Amazon, like he said, that we're competing with 1.6 billion books, and yes, we all have to be friends in the indie community and help each other out. But you can't forget that there is a limit to how much people can read.
Yeah.
And you have to put the right things in front of them. So it's hyper competitive. It's pretty crazy.
You know what? I'm going to take back everything I said about you guys being so smart and successful. You've gotten into the dumbest industry you could have chosen.
It is. But we're authors that realize.
Who the hell's idea was this anyway?
I mean, we could produce one TV show and make the same amount and never have to work again. Instead, we published 300 books.
Yeah, but you're kind of playing the lottery there, man.
Yeah.
Well, so you look at, and just for the sake of saying it, like, you look at that 150 books that we published last year, because I did this. Listen, that freaking grid that I made with all those little books took me out.
Yeah, it was huge.
Didn't you have kids to hang out with?
If there was an easier way to do that, I've been doing Photoshop for 20 something years. I don't know of an easier way. And I'll
There's not. I've done it for giveaways.
So 150 books, lined them all up and everything. And I looked at those as I went through, and I went, you know what? Most of these books had success.
Yeah.
Now, granted, like, we're gonna say what does success look like, and to one author, I mean, my success looks different from what somebody else's did. But man, on our scale of success, most of them did great.
Well, I think because you guys are so keyed into how this industry behaves, you know what realistic success looks like, you know. And I would expect that that's your metric, is like, okay, realistic success in this market with the amount of competition that you have. All of these are doing pretty well. You probably get a few that's like through the roof crazy, and nobody really knows how to predict how or why that happens.
I mean, those
it just
are viral
hits.
It's like a viral video. How do you predict which video is going to go viral? You see it on every one of them. They're like, oh, my video went viral, and I don't even know how. I just posted it to Facebook. It's the same thing with Amazon.
It's funny too, because the minute somebody posts something that goes viral, you know, they've always got the first comment under it with, well, since everybody's here, let me plug my thing. You know,
right.
I'm a DJ. Here's my business. Or, you know, I nobody clicks that second link. They just look at the video.
I mean, I'm still waiting for my viral success, right? Like, we've had a few, and we go, well, freaking A, why couldn't that have been me?
You know? Yeah, and I think the difference is, like, you know when it's viral because all of a sudden it's taking off, and there wasn't a special marketing boost that day. Like, it just is rising and rising and rising, like Dead Acre.
Yeah, just strange.
It's just happening, and you're like, well, I know we launched it well, but, like, that's doing better than other things that we've launched well, and that you sort of know.
Yeah, I think there's just a piece of it that is just blind ass luck, you know, and there's a factor that you can't account for. Yeah,
it's a factor that we always bring up when we sign people.
Yeah,
because no one wants to believe it. They want to believe that there's an answer for everything, and sometimes the answer is just having a ton of money to market something. But you know, that's not viral. That's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, you're talking about a sleeper hit.
It's like The Martian. He released that. There was no marketing budget behind it. There was after it became big, and then it kept selling. But
I think that The Martian was just so damn unique, though.
It was perfectly timed.
There's 1,000 other brand like so unique books that nobody's ever even seen.
And no, probably a million books like The Martian.
You know?
I get that. It's like what do they call that? The X factor. It's like there's some intangible thing that happens that gets it in front of enough eyeballs, and then the thing just it's self-sustaining. It snowballs under its own weight. When you guys figure out how to do that every time, you let me know.
Right.
I think the issue now is that when a lot of those things were happening was when Kindle was newer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now what you're seeing is there's less just random breakouts and more grinding your author name into success with marketing and good launches and stuff, because there's so many titles now. Like 2014 or whenever The Martian came out, that was when things could just randomly take off if you put them up.
Well, I think you're seeing what's the word what word am I looking for? Homogenization or stratification? I think like you'll see when a new industry launches or is disrupted, you'll see like early successes, but then just through inertia, the industry starts to refine itself and become more dialed in. You can see it with movies. In fact, you can see it with MMA, right? Like that seems like a completely random ass comparison, right? But when UFC started, it looked like Street Fighter. You know, there were all these different combatants that this person does karate, this person claims he's a ninja, this person is kung fu. We've got a sumo wrestler, and in the beginning, there were some very wild upsets that I think a lot of people didn't expect. But then as the industry grew and evolved, it starts to normalize. And now today, you can't really pick the same. You can't pick out the kung fu practitioner. That everybody's figured out the combination of skill sets that makes you most successful. But now I think you see less of the huge memorable stars, and now it's more just like everybody's grinding. Just like you said, now everybody's got the formula, and they're just tweaking variables.
Yeah, well, now the subgenres that sell in the certain market. Like some sell best on Audible, some sell best Kindle, some sell best in print, and you just take those methods and produce for that market.
Yeah.
Something I tell all of our authors is that books don't sell because they're good. Books get good reviews because they're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And now, of course, if your book is good, of course it will. And it sells well to begin with, then the good reviews, of course, snowball on top of there. But initially speaking, it doesn't matter how good your book is; it's not going to sell just because it's good.
Yeah,
who knows it's good?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's right. Or then sometimes books aren't good and they sell anyway.
Agreed with
that. But that's
well,
just
right?
that's subjective. That's subjective.
And that's kind of the point, right? That's exactly the point. Is books sell because they are marketed properly.
Yeah.
At the right time. And then there's there's always that it factor, X factor, whatever you said, where Amazon just goes, you know what? Today I really like Joshua Gayu.
Yeah. Today we're gonna knock his book to the top of the lists for whatever reason.
What was the boop button? How do I hit
that? Today you're going to get a daily deal. Like, that those used to make a career, and it was totally random who got them.
Yeah.
It's still random. They're just not as powerful now because Audible's older.
Well, I think just going back to I think Rhett, you'd said this earlier where or maybe it was Steve, I can't remember. You both look the same to me. But it was one of your books that you guys are representing, it breaks out and becomes viral, and you say, well, why didn't this happen in one of the books that I wrote? And I think I think there's a degree of that. I think writers are going to have to naturally be competitive when they look at how each other's doing. But for me, speaking for myself personally, there's a bit of that, but then at the same time, there's also just the acknowledgement that we've got this upstart group of writers, And if any of them are breaking out and becoming viral, that's good news. That's good news for all of us.
It's it's shaking hands after a football game. You have to compete, but also be respectful, kind of thing.
Well, it's just ultimately you have to be happy for the group as a whole, because one person doing well, it elevates all of us. Within Aethon, I don't know that you're ever going to be able to make enough noise to change perception of independent writers, right? Like you've got indie writers, there's a certain perception that comes along with that, right? Yeah.
It's there because they're selling print. They need to sell print, so Kindle has to look lesser.
Well, there's a lot of stuff out there that I would say doesn't pass the barrier to entry. It doesn't come over a certain level of quality. I don't know if that's just down to editing or the person or persons writing the material I'm just, this is my vanity project or whatever, right? Like there's a serious mindset that you have to write a good story, and it can't just be a hobby at a certain point. So all that being said, I like that you guys in this group, it's still very independently minded, but you're putting material out that's very, very high bar, high quality. And I think one person in the group succeeds, and I think it lifts up everybody in the group. And I'm, anybody gets a bestseller, I'm in the back going, yes, go. Because people are going to come and look at that catalog. They're going to say, what else are these people putting out? It's good for everybody.
To be fair, just because I want to backtrack. So, I mean, there was definitely a bit of a joke there, right? Like Rick Partlow's a good friend of ours. And
oh, sure.
Rick, I would kill. No, I wouldn't kill. That's awful. I don't know why that's even a phrase.
I would fantasize about killing.
I mean, listen, man. We'd all give something to have a success like Drop Trooper.
Mm-hmm.
I would give a lot to have success like Commune. And the reality is that doesn't take away from the fact that I am so sort of proud of Rick or proud of you in that regard. It just does, as an author, make you go, if there was just a magic button Amazon pushed one day, I want access to that.
Yeah.
But it's it speaks to the fact that there is competition. I wouldn't release a book the same day as you, but I'll still help you release your book. Like you just have to be smart and respectful with the competition and everyone. It's why we don't want to take up on more books. Like we can't launch 30 military sci-fi series in the same week.
Right.
Only one of them is going to sell. There's only one top 50 chart on Amazon, and on that chart are 25 things that probably will never budge from that spot because they're by famous authors or a show or something.
Well, I remember my wife brought this up as a concern when I was first talking to you guys about signing with you. She's a very shrewd woman, business-wise. She's better at that stuff than I am. I want to create a thing, and that's all I really care about. But man, she's like a hawk. And the first thing she said is, okay, so you're signing with these publishers. I've never heard of them before. Who are they? It's kind of like when your dad sits you down and talks to you and says, look, boy, you're not going to be a rock star. Stop talking about going to LA. It's like that kind of discussion. And I was telling her, no, I think these guys are pretty good. I've talked to them on the phone. They seem reasonable. I'm not getting any vibe that I feel like it's going to be, like Publish America. I don't feel like I'm going to be screwed here dealing with these guys. And it was funny because I told her, well, they write books too. So they know what it's like being an author. And the first thing that she came to was, okay, so they're publishing their own books through this company. So what does that mean? Does that mean that when you've got a book that comes out, they focus on it less hard because they've got their own thing they're putting out that week? And I mean, like that hadn't even occurred to me,
That is because that's the classic small press.
Yeah.
Is an author who got spurned by big publishing or couldn't get published, started a small press, and use it to focus on themselves. So that I understand that concern, because it's why our names are no longer on our website, because it's hard to get submissions, because that just has such a bad view in the industry, the traditional industry, where for us it's like, well, yeah, of course I want my publisher to publish their own stuff, because that means they trust that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it's different. We could find another small press to publish our stuff if we wanted. For us, it was a tax thing. Like, we make more money just publishing through an LLC, our own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we could create another company for our own stuff. But if we're going to have this, money-wise, it makes sense for us to go through it. But we're still shopping to other places and things like that. But that is just a big black mark on the small presses of the industry, because they're all passion projects started by editors and authors who no longer had a job with Big Five or something like that.
Yeah.
The reality is, if it's done anything, it's actually cut our writing ability to a fraction. I mean, I used to be able to do 10,000 words a day. I'm really lucky if I get to do 10,000 words a month at this point.
Yeah. Well, what I can say to that concern is, you know, I've published more books with you guys now than I have without. And I never got the sense at any point that something that I was doing was being backburnered in favor of somebody else's title or your title. I always felt as though you guys were putting as much work and consideration into one of my releases as I would myself. So I've always felt
that's
I'd
why
work
we
with you
can't.
guys.
That's why, like, we'll do a sci-fi one week and a fantasy one week, but we'll never bunch up on a genre that we think is hitting the same market. We try to always separate those. And if it's one of our own things, same thing. We'll separate it for a week so we can focus on ourselves and not have to insult anyone else by it. Because naturally, you're going to focus on your own book if it's competing against someone else's. So we just don't put ourselves in that position, which is why we're pretty maxed out on the amount of books we could do per year.
Well, I mean, how hard would it be? Like, I'm trying to imagine just getting out of that headspace. Like, you've got a book that you've written, which means mentally you've been living in that world for months. That's been the thing that you've cared about. And then now you've got to pivot and focus on somebody else's material and push that just as hard as the thing that's been your baby for all that time. And, you know, like I said, I never felt as though I was getting less than your best. So, you know, kudos to you guys for being able to put that level of focus into other people's works aside from your own. I don't know where you find the energy or the reserve of will to pour through it all. It's amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I think we just love what we do. Honestly, I don't think we'd be doing it.
You'd have to. You'd really have
to. We love it.
Yeah. That's like you, especially you, Rhett. You tend to get really wonky over a release. Like, oh, you know, there's these little factors that you have to dial in, and you have to plan for this, and don't talk about a release until this specific minute of this specific day, and everything is timed out. And then it's like, oh man, you should do this, and it's like you really seem to get a charge out of that, out of just understanding.
We have a whole system, and no one ever does it. So
well,
we try our hardest, and like, the minute we say, oh, just don't post about your pre-order yet, usually there's a post about a pre-order the next day.
No. It's not a post about a pre-order. It's look at my new cover, and then in the comments, oh, you could get it on pre-order.
I'm not going to pretend as though that hasn't happened to me.
We know how to do it, but we're pretty used to it now that people just get excited about their books. So, you know,
I do it too.
They're going to do their own thing as well.
What's really hard is that we do a lot of the things as authors. We do a lot of the things that we tell our authors not to
Don't do it. Yeah.
But part of that is because we have, how do I word this? Like, we have the control to know when you could do something, when you can't do something.
Yeah, I think you just understand industry conditions better than the average writer is what it comes down to.
It's our money.
Yeah.
It's an optics things for us too, though, because we're more audio authors. Like, that's where most of our following is. And that's a very different thing where you can post about a pre-order. Who cares? It's very different than Kindle, which is, it really wants that formula of a launch.
Yeah. Well, what I was saying though is like not only do you succeed in that space, but you really seem to revel in it, and like that's kind of brain chemistry I simply don't possess. Like I love the process of writing a book, and that's about it. I don't like the marketing concerns. I don't like all the timing. I don't like all the, like, you know, I see so many writers, they talk about planning the perfect book release. Independent writers who don't have a team like you guys to help them through all this stuff, right? And it's like it's so detailed, and it's so wonky.
Once you know all of it, it does make writing harder. I just released that book, The Roach, and I know like there's no market for that on Kindle.
Yeah.
Nowhere at all. And knowing that, like, obviously you'll be disappointed if it doesn't sell, but knowing it going in, like, why did I write this? Obvious, like, there's no market for this to sell, and I know that because this is what we do every day, and that does make it harder to. It's just like Dead Acre. We loved it. We were like, well, this is it, right? It's going to be a novella. But now we're like, well, no, let's make this maybe an audio-focused series.
Like we wouldn't have released that novella on ebook. That would never happen. We found the only way that we thought it had a chance for success. Yeah. We did it. Now, for me personally, I know that I could write a book today. It could be a fantastic book. It could have a great book cover. It could be edited, blah, 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 blah. If Rhett was not involved in this process, I could not sell that book. I don't sell books.
Just because you just need his brains to get it out there intelligently.
We haven't really crossed over our roles in the company either. Like if Steve gave me a bunch of files that I had to turn into an actual book, I don't even know. Like, I used to know how to make my own Moby. Now I need to ask him to make my Mobies for me because I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah, I was, you know what? Just the other day I was thinking about that. Like, I remember when I used to write, you know, I'd finish another book in the Commune series, right? So I'd get it edited down and cleaned up as much as possible. And then I've got to go and talk to the guy who does the book cover. And then I've got to get the thing and format it so that it fits, you know, in a print book, because, you know, I'll make sure the print is available too. And I was just picturing like having to go back and do all that myself. And I nearly had a panic attack. Like I nearly induced myself into just trying to picture, like, oh God, where do I download the Word doc template from Amazon to create the.
See, and I've got we have artists literally all over the globe. I work with people in Poland and Argentina and Thailand, and you know, have them specifically for different style books that we do.
You know what? The guy that you hooked me up with for Warlord, best experience I've had so far with an artist.
Luciano does.
He's our
guy. He was fantastic.
That said, like, it'll be literally 2 a.m. and I'll be talking to some artist somewhere because that's when they're working. And I love that. Of course, my wife goes, you're in church. Why are you doing this right now? Like, because this is when so-and-so is alive right now.
like an author in Japan who I'll answer at a random time. It's like, get off your phone. It's like, no, if I don't answer them now, I have to wait an entire day for an answer because.
See, the difference is you guys can actually claim business. Right. Whenever my wife yells at me to get off the phone, I'm usually watching some meme or cat video.
Well, what's funny,
I don't have a good excuse.
Rhett, when we were discussing your Vicarious cover, we were doing that long text with your artist. I was driving the kids around doing Christmas lights, and so I would keep pulling over on the side of the road to like make believe I was showing them. No, just listen. Make believe I was showing them Christmas lights. I shoot off a text, and finally. Robin's like, can you explain this to me? She's like, if you just explain it, I feel like I'll be okay. And that was the exact answer I gave her. I'm like, well, if I don't handle this right now, it's going to be 24 more hours before I'm able to handle this.
Because that was the artist was, yeah.
It was like 9 o'clock at night. He was going to be in bed by the time I got home, right? Because it was already like 2 a.m. his time. And so, you know, I think that's like the key is this business is like kind of like a now thing. It never ends. It never, ever ends.
Well, it seems like a young man's game. I don't think I could keep up with it.
I'm
That's why we're
36 and having trouble.
Yeah. It just takes a lot of complaining. If one of us was doing this alone, I think we'd have lost our mind by now.
Yeah, well, I like I've noticed that about you guys. You seem to complement each other with the skills that each of you brings to this. I was also thinking about just how hard it is to find. I mean, obviously, you guys have been friends for a while, and I don't know at what point you just decide together, hey, let's start up a publishing company. But
when we lost our minds.
When you're like, okay, that's fair. Well, no, but there's a large degree of trust there that says, well, I know that when I need this person tomorrow to work on something with me, they're going to be there. Like you try to get people that you want to collaborate with, right? Like I've had this problem before. It's like there's things that I like to do that are more social, that are creative, right? Kind of like what we're doing right now, where I like to get together with people and just discuss things like this, because writing is just so solitary. You know, you're in a room by yourself, and you can't have anybody intruding on you or distract. It's like there's some point where like I need to get out and discuss things with other people, and it's hard to find people that will lock to the same schedule or say, hey, let's do this. Let's make it a recurring thing, right? So you guys have figured out how to be constantly on, right? It's not just, oh, well, we're it's kind of a hobby thing. It's like, this is your bread and butter. And it's impressive that you go from friends to business and all that keeps working. Because I could see that like flattening a relationship like nothing.
I think
you know what I mean?
Wise, we're both similar in that.
Yeah.
Like we just want to answer and get the things done now and talk it through now. And like when we email someone and they're all excited to work with us, they're like, let's set up a call for 2 weeks from now. I'm like, just call me right now. Like we're both have that mindset. Like it's 2020, your phone's in your hand. If we want to discuss this, let's just do it and get it over with. I think that helps.
Our friendships sort of started in business. Now there's a long story to go with it, but like it really started with us writing together and us doing some graphic work together for different projects and stuff. And it escalated from there. But without getting sort of into the nitty gritty, like each of us went through a sort of tragic moment in our lives.
Oh, wow.
And I've said this before, and I'll say it publicly. I wouldn't really have made it through the way that I did if Rhett wasn't there. And so I think when you share tragedy with someone, matter of fact, Rhett was there during 2 tragedies. Rhett was there when I almost lost my daughter, and Rhett was there when I lost my job. That was my career and my passion for 15 years. And the nature of my job was that like everybody that I called family, because it was a church related thing, right? Everybody
Sure.
Family disappeared. They totally disappeared because there became that weird thing of you no longer pastor my church. So I just lost 600 friends overnight. And Rhett was a constant, sort of. Of course, my wife and family, all of that.
Sure.
Like, that made it so much easier for me to honestly trust him with everything that we do. Like, I don't even care if there's a contract between us.
Yeah, that's...
Which there isn't. It's just the fact that we just happen to own a company 50-50. It is all we really needed.
I have to imagine that having a friend like that must make all the other crazy shit that you're trying to achieve possible.
I think it was the first time I had a friend who wrote. Like I never had writer friends or anything. So I guess Steve was there when basically my whole traditional career exploded. And I was like, well, how do I just do this myself? And we sort of did it ourselves, building it until we started Aethon. But yeah, he lost his job. Me and him were talking about me leaving my job. I had gone like part-time because of the advance I got for the Children of Titan series. And then once he lost his job, we were both like, let's just do it. Yeah. I gave my notice, and we both just started Aethon Books basically the next day.
And I'm not going to ask how well this is doing for you guys personally, as far as being able to pay yourselves and make a living out of it. I see that new things are happening all the time. I have to assume you guys are doing okay.
This is, of course, like you said, like we won't give numbers or anything like that, but I went from pastoring. No one makes money pastoring in the right way, right? Like
right.
There's
It's
mega church.
It's really got to be a passion if you're going to do it according to the word, right? You know, it's like,
I mean, I literally made the first year that I pastored $23,000 a year to take care of my entire family, and I did that for years and years and years. And so for me, anything above that was like, I could do this. This is easy.
Yeah. Sure.
But, God, I mean, Rhett won't look at this the same way, and that's okay. But God really, really freaking blessed the hell out of this industry for me, this business for me. I never expected it. I know that we put a lot of hard work into it, but so do a lot of other people. So I look at it and I go, God set this up from the very beginning for me, and I couldn't be happier, I don't think, than what I'm doing right now.
You know, I think that's a fine thing. People get so precious about what causes their success. Oh, it was all work. Or no, I think that there was someone who's higher up and has a plan, and I think he had a part in this too. Whatever you believe, I think that success comes after hard work, and it's clear that you've both put it in there. You know, and I'm so glad that you are. I'm so glad that you're together and doing this thing, because I probably wouldn't know what the hell I'm doing right now. Right? I wouldn't have anything to barnacle myself to, would I? Okay, well, I think I'm going to end it there. We've been doing this for about an hour and a half, and I've had an I've just had a fantastic time talking to you guys. I do want to say before I get off, I did not know that you had nearly lost your daughter, Steve, and I every once in a while you post a picture of her in your private circles. That is got to be one of the cutest little girls I've ever seen. She looks like a little elf. I swear to God, I think I can see she's got a lot of her mom in her face. You know that her mother is also just an adorable woman. So I mean, I'm glad that all is well there. I'm very glad to hear that.
Bruno was born entirely blue, purple.
Oh my God!
She came out and didn't make a sound for about a minute and 20 seconds or so, and honestly, that was the hardest thing I ever went through in my life. But there was also this tremendous experience that I had, because as a pastor for years, I had been telling everybody to trust in Jesus with everything. And
sure,
that was a minute and 20 seconds.
That was a test, right?
I talked to God that whole time, and I literally said the words, I don't know why you would let this happen, but it doesn't change how I feel about you.
Yeah.
And then literally 10 seconds later, I heard Juno crying in the other room. And, her middle name is Grace. And it was just, it was an experience I never had before. I never want anyone to ever have to go through it. I know that I didn't lose a kid, but at the same time, it helps me to empathize with somebody who did, because for a minute and a half, I thought I had.
Yeah, I can
genuinely thought that was it.
I've not been through something like that where it was delivery. When my son was born, he came out screaming healthy. But we have lost pregnancies, and I've got a sense of what that feels like. I can only imagine how horrifying it must have been. You get to the point where the baby comes out and there's no movement. It's like that is the worst nightmare you could conceive of on the road to becoming a new parent. But I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad she's here with us. Very, very, very fortunate. So I think I'll be done now. If you guys had anything else that you wanted to say before we shut this down, now would be the time to do it. But I had all kinds of fun hanging out with you guys. Very good.
Yeah, same. Everyone should go read some of Joshua's books.
Well, true story.
Well,
That's a true story.
I'm definitely if they're watching, they might be.
I'm going to go get Dead Acre is what's going to happen next. It turns out that 2020 has completely screwed up my drive time reading. So I've got just credits coming out my ears, but I don't need a credit to get this one, I think. Well, hold on. Do you have to sign up for Audible Plus?
If you were already had, if you already had that $14.95 package, you were sort of grandfathered into the Plus.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes, you'll have it.
Well,
you should have it.
Well, I have to see. It's my wife's Audible account. I don't actually have my own.
Uh-oh.
But
I bet you have it.
Yeah.
If not, let me know. We'll figure it out.
We can gift you.
I'll very easily, very happily spend a point on that. I don't care. So, all right. I'm going to stop this stream right now for anybody that came along to listen. Thanks very much for stopping in. I think I'll probably get this video and edit it and put it up on Keystroke Medium a little later so we can have that. You guys can put that up for your readers as well so they can see what happens inside of your noggins. So, okay. Thanks, everyone.